Welcome to another post-game episode of This Week in Habsland. I am Jordan. He is Brian. We are here to discuss the Habs 1-0 overtime loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night. You can find us on social media at Habsland Pod on Blue Sky and TikTok. Brian, going down to the wire here, and I will say we're recording this Sunday morning, so how quickly our tenor might change in the next 12 to 14 hours, who knows? But for now, Canadiens are 5 points up on the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're the only team still around that could catch the Canadiens. I believe they must win all of their last 3 games. Technically, they do not all have to be in regulation, but anyways, we don't have to get into the specifics of that. But what I did want to ask you is, are you starting to get a little nervous?
I'm not nervous about losing the playoff spot. What I'm starting to get worried about is the bad habits creeping into the Montreal Canadiens play. Yeah. So whether they make the playoffs or not, we're not going to be satisfied with the result if they keep playing like this. Like 2 shots in a period, Jordan, against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first. We'll get to that game specifically, but I've sort of just listed out and it's like all the things that have been going wrong lately, all the bad habits creeping back in. A very similar list to what we were seeing at the beginning of the season, which is worrisome. The poor slot coverage, we've covered a bunch, like that Philly game, the Ottawa Senators game, a lot of that lately. The lack of discipline we saw in Toronto was really bad. Very slow starts to games and periods. That's not a good one either. That's the type of thing that a strong team like Washington's going to bury you in the first and you can't creep back in that series. And then a new one, which was, no, I insist, you shoot the puck, which was the philosophy of the Montreal Canadiens against Toronto, where it seemed like nobody actually wanted to take the shot.
So, yeah, you laid down a bunch there, so I'll pick up some of that. Canadiens had 15 shots on goal on 57 shot attempts, which I think has to be some type of season low in terms of just the percentage of shots that get through to the net. There's one moment specifically, I believe it was either early second or early third. No, it was early second, where Suzuki has a quasi breakaway, I think around Brandon Carlo, and gets a half decent shot off from what you were expecting. But it's right afterwards where Caulfield is unable to get a shot off when the goaltender is kind of just still sprawling around. And then same goes for Laine Hudson. He just misses the net by like 3 feet. And that was kind of a microcosm of specifically that line. Like the first line did have 10 of the 15 shots, which is kind of incredible when you think about it. Like on their own, they seem to do okay. They had a 62% shot attempt percentage. So they played well. Like I know we've been on them about poor starts, but I thought this was better. But then I also looked up and suddenly the shots were 9-2. And it's like, it's great. You can have the puck a little bit more, but if you're not getting pucks on the net, you literally can't win the game. So that play in the third where Suzuki creates something, good speed, good burst, half decent shot attempt, never really a serious threat to score the goal. But then the Caulfield, I think he whiffed on it more than anything. And then Hudson just sailing it above the net was kind of a microcosm of like, they're just not getting things on net. And
yeah,
you know, like overall, I do think they played a decent game. And I think some of the numbers reflect that. It's almost the reverse Islanders game from a few weeks ago where the Habs outshot them like 40-25 or something like that. But eye test was kind of like, this was more 50-50. The game on Saturday night was pretty 50-50, I would say. If you park the Leafs power play. But overall, like it's great they played better, but you need to put the round thing into the net typically to win,
or at least hit the goalie with it or something. Hit a rebound. But yeah, that shift was interesting because if you look at it purely from like a cycling and offensive zone time standpoint, they were in the zone for well over a minute. I think it was like a minute 20 or something like that they had the puck, they had possession, and they had tried to put pucks on net, just missing. But you need the shot creation and you need the shots to be on net. It's as simple as that. I'm trying to find another way to describe it, Jordan, but it's just so simple. There is no other way to describe it. You have to put pucks on net. So despite the fact that was maybe a great lesson and like, yeah, this is the way that we're supposed to be cycling and keeping the puck in the offensive zone and keeping it away from them and creating through passes and stuff like that to try and get better opportunities, but the puck still has to go on net. So I'm glad you pointed out that shift in the second period. There was a similar thing in the first period when Pezzetta drew the penalty early, where the first power play unit goes to work. They get well over a minute of zone time once again. They put 2 shots on Stolar, so that's a little better. They got 2 shots on him at least, which thank God, because those were the only 2 shots they took in the first period. Thank God for the power play. But the shot attempts, Jordan, in the first, 19 to 18 for the Montreal Canadiens. So 2 of 19 actually hit the net. That's absolutely amazing.
What was interesting was the last few games before the Leafs game, Canadiens were really struggling, or maybe contrarily, is teams were forcing the Canadiens to kind of dump the puck in and you can't bring it in with possession. It seems like the Leafs were cool with the Habs bringing it in with possession. Their defensive game plan was different. They said, it's okay, we don't worry about them bringing the puck in the zone, but once they get in the zone, then we can clog them up at the points and then kind of push them to the outside and not let anybody get into the slots. And that seemed to work. So it's kind of troubling that either game plan these days seems to work against the Habs. You know, right. First line had it. Third line, not so much. Second line, still adrift. Hopefully that's resolved in the next game or so, but we don't want to put too much pressure on Demidov. Fourth line is, I do think Armia played a half decent game. Evans was decent, but like fourth line just has no juice right now. It is what it is. We haven't talked about Jakob Dobes yet. Maybe we transition into him in terms of one of the positive things, because ultimately the first line, they didn't score, but they were one of the bright spots of Saturday night. The bright spot, though, was Jakob Dobes, and specifically his performance in that third period when there's those back-to-back power plays that overlap slightly into a 5-on-3, the Pizzetta penalty, and then the Savard penalty, and we can get into the validity of whether those were penalties. I certainly think the Pizzetta one was, but Savard, man, he was good. Like, it was very much, I made a joke on Blue Sky about like, all we're missing at this point, it was a Travis Moen or Maxim Lapierre goal, and we're straight up the 2010 Canadiens again. Because the shots were like 31 to 11 at some point, or I know it was like 27 to 8 for a long time, and like Jakob Dobes was very much channeling Jarro Halak. I mean, we've already made the comparisons for the last year or so between him and Fowler and Halak and Price, but like it's great to see that, you know, him too. He wobbled for a bit. He didn't get a lot of ice time. He had one really poor performance against Philadelphia. Last 2 games, he is the reason they have 3 of 4 points in his last 2 starts. What did you see in Dobes' game?
Yeah, he had himself a stellar night in goal. He was rock steady, and if he hadn't been, it would have gotten very ugly. He was the best Habs penalty killer by far because Toronto put tons of opportunities on net, and there were a few times that it was just impossible for the Indians to get rid of the puck, get it out of the zone, get it out of danger, including that 5-on-3. I did not like that bad penalty that Pizzetta took. You know, he completely nullified the positivity that was his game prior to that, drawing in the first, being energetic, hitting a bunch of guys. Like, he was having himself a good Pizzetta game, a good game for Michael Pizzetta. And then that penalty was bad. And then the Savard slash, which, let's get into it just really quickly. You call that a slash, really, referees? Like, that happens 40 times a night. And especially while the team's already killing a penalty, you never see them call that. So, like, look, if they call it all the time, it's a slash, fair enough, but they never call it. So I don't see it being one. But thank God for Jakob Dobes. He was stellar on that penalty kill, moving across his crease very, very well. There was one pad save that he made like completely in the splits position that was really, really nice. Another glove save that comes to mind where he didn't catch it, but he just managed to knock it out. So yeah, Jakob Dobes had himself a wonderful game. It's a great sign for the future. Monty's going to be the starter if and when the Montreal Canadiens make the playoffs. But if ever he needs to come into a game for whatever reason, it's a good sign. And for next season, it's definitely a good sign as well.
I think 2 big saves on Marner on the power play. I think one of them is the one you were referencing. And then a few minutes after that, there's a Tavares chance on a semi-rush where Tavares just keeps banging the rebound, trying to get it in, and Dobes is just not letting it in. And the puck eventually moves around. I think that's the one where the net kind of comes off a little bit and the play stops.
Very strategic, hard hit into the post to Dobes. That was very well done.
But that's part of the dark arts of goaltending.
Yeah, exactly.
That counts. You know, who was it? I think it was Mike Johnson on the broadcast on Sunday against Nashville, which is also a Dobes game, where Dobes notified the referee that the net was off. And Mike Johnson quickly said, "That's great, but next time don't tell them." And if somehow a puck goes in, you'd be like, "Oh, the net was off." And I wonder if there was a quick lesson that was shared with Dobes after that Sunday game. Whereas for this one, it was a light tap. He didn't tell anybody it fell off. It was pretty visible that it had fallen off. I think and then Hudson was kind of like telling people, like, please don't shoot at us. The net's off. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Brian, quick trivia question. Who were the 3 players who had the least amount of 5-on-5 time on Saturday night for the Montreal Canadiens?
So the defense got tons of time, the top four that is. So I'm thinking maybe David Savard is a dark horse for this question.
Yeah, he is third. He had the third least amount of 5-on-5 minutes at 8 minutes. He did get about 4 minutes on the penalty kill. And I will say, just generally speaking, if you're just looking at ice time, Caden Gooley only played about 18 minutes on Saturday. You have to contextualize the fight that he had with Max Domi, which was just like, Domi was just peak Domi. Well done. Good job on Saturday, being completely useless, yet being on the screen every 5 seconds.
And getting an unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for the power play. But then also the fact that because that Leafs power play was so good, Matheson and Savard just couldn't get off the ice. They were, quite frankly, spending a minute 30, maybe even the full 2 minutes on the penalty kill. So yeah, Savard is third from the bottom at 5-on-5 time, around 8 minutes. Who do you think the other two were?
One of them has to be Michael Pezzetta. I barely remember him in that game other than taking the penalty, drawing one, and a couple hits here and there.
Of course, yes. Pezzetta's last 4 minutes. Unsurprising. I do want to come back to Pezzetta, but for the purpose of this exercise, who is the middle guy? Who's the second to last in terms of 5-on-5 time?
Oh, had to be the new kid. Had to be Kapanen.
It's not. It's one of his line mates, though. Patrick Laine.
Patrick Laine had the second least 5-on-5 time in this game?
Yeah, so he only played about 7 minutes at 5-on-5. Gets a bunch of power play time.
Oof.
So, yeah, let's talk it out with Patrick Laine a bit. He's averaging the lowest ice time of his career, for a little over 14 minutes a game. He's played 11 minutes on Saturday. He's been averaging 13 minutes over the past 10 games. Just want to get my numbers right. It's becoming more and more clear that, the second line, again, just wasteland this season. It's amazing the Canadiens are where they are with not having a second line in any capacity at 5-on-5. St. Louis doesn't trust them, and he's trying to do this thing where you need to earn your time to get more ice time at 5-on-5. You're I've just been kind of slowly, and I hinted at it last episode, getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know if Patrick Laine fits on this team. Now, I've also been clamoring for years the Canadiens need more talent at offense. And this is the immovable force meets the unstoppable whatever. He has the best shot on the team. He is the reason their power play is even middle of the pack. But at the same time, he is pretty maddening to watch, even sometimes on the power play. And I think that is coming across very clearly in how St. Louis is doling him out at 5-on-5. Look, he had, and it was pointed out on the TV Sport broadcast, he had one really good shift defensively in the first period. I think it was kind of shadowing, I want to say it was Mitch Marner, but I might be wrong on that. Very good, very engaged defensively, good stuff. But it's just not there every shift. And I'm just thinking more and more first of all, just really forget the big picture stuff. Just how do you maximize him for the rest of the season at this point? Because if he's not in his spot receiving a one-timer on the power play, is he just a net zero for the rest of his play, or is he even a slight negative?
Oh, I would say a slight negative, because the play that you're talking about where he made a good defensive play is the outlier.
Yeah.
He's not a good defensive forward, which fair enough. He's a sniper. He doesn't have to be, but he has to be implicated at 5-on-5 in other ways than just standing in his spot waiting for a saucer pass. Demidov coming into the lineup and being able to dipsy doodle guys and dance around and gain extra time at 5-on-5. We hope, obviously, smaller rink. He's never played an NHL game before. So, no pressure, kid. But if he could be the solution to Patrick Laine, as you pointed out, either last episode or the one prior, that could be great. But you also don't want a player's fit on a team to be completely contingent on a 19-year-old coming in for the first time and literally throwing him a life vest and saving him from himself. That's not what you want. You want Laine to bail himself out with good, smart play. And I think that this would be an even more dire situation if we didn't have Cole Caulfield, because as you say that you don't know if Laine fits the long-term plan of the Montreal Canadiens, I agree with you. He doesn't fit Martin St. Louis' plan or system of everybody needs to contribute in every single way. Caulfield has become certainly not a top-end defensive forward, but he's become good enough on the defensive end at retrievals, at getting his stick in passing lanes, at tying guys up in corners just to give his line mates a little more time or the defense a little more time to get the puck out. He's implicated, and Laine has not progressed in that way. So I don't know if he's too late in his career and he's sort of stagnant in his ways, or if the injury is coming into play, because there are shifts where he just looks a little bit slow. So we don't want to speculate about that, but like Caulfield's the perfect corollary of a sniper who learned the other stuff and is still learning and still getting better and getting better at the playmaking and these other things. And so worst case, if it doesn't work out with Laine, Caulfield takes the sniper spot, top of the circle on that power play unit. Maybe the percentages go down by a few points, but we would actually have I would say a more than functioning first line as it stands right now. And then you replace Laine on the second line with somebody who's good at 5-on-5 and Demidov and Newhook or whoever the second line center becomes. That's a much more high octane top six that isn't completely dependent on the power play for one of the guys to function at all. So of course this is worrisome. The lack of ice time is completely deserved. And the reason that it's completely deserved that he's getting so little ice time is very worrisome to me. The fact that you're bringing it up means that it's worrisome to you as well. Are you on the same page as me of like, whatever, Caulfield will just take his spot in a year or two?
I guess so. Again, I'm the guy who's been bringing up like they need more talent every single offseason, and they do it. I still think there's a way for it to work. Maybe just for the purposes of this season, it is what it is, and it's going to be limited ice time, and that second line will remain kind of adrift, even with Demidov coming into the fold. But yeah, like you mentioned about his speed, like there's sometimes he looks like the oldest guy on the ice. There are times where it looks like I think David Savard might actually beat him to a puck race.
Yeah, right.
Even though he's 26, right? I think that's what Patrick Laine is, 26, 27, somewhere around that range. We'll see. It's something to keep monitoring. Again, these are the biggest games of the year, so it's very important to see how guys are performing. It's interesting to see, the third line, for the most part, is bringing it every night. You're seeing Lane Hudson, Nick Suzuki. We've talked about it, right? Like the guys bringing it every night, and the ones who are maybe not quite meeting the moment. And with Laine, you wonder how much of it is just a limitation in his play, and how much of it might just be effort. You never know. Quickly on the second line, Alex Newhook just clearly is still snake bitten, but in contrast to Laine, St. Louis trusts the crap out of Alex Newhook right now.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me. I think he was second or third among forwards in 5-on-5 time on Saturday night. His issue is, and it's like through percentage is a fascinating stat because I think it has less to do with, in my opinion, I might be wrong. It has less to do with how great your shot is and more about where you take your shots from, right? I'm certainly like the best on the team are Caulfield and Laine, big surprise. But part of that is those shots are very much elite, but part of that is they know where to go on the ice to make sure they can get their shots off.
Yeah.
Newhook is third from the bottom among forwards on the team in through percentage. It's Armia and Heineman are the only two guys below him. Unsurprising, it's two fourth liners who like their job is not necessarily to put pucks on the net. But despite all that, like the Laine conversation, St. Louis is trusting Newhook. He clearly likes what Newhook is doing at times. I think he just, in the same way he had the goose egg with the with the assists earlier in the year, and then that kind of broke through and he started picking up some assists. I'm hoping he can break through on the, I forget what it is. It's like one goal in his last 15 or 16 games, something like that. But it's something that's sorely needed because they need some type of secondary scoring, and you cannot rely on Dvorak, Anderson, and Gallagher to be that basically every night, which is what it's become because fourth line has no offense, second line has no offense. First line does its absolute best most nights, and then the third line, it's become a de facto second line. When you look at how much these lines are playing at 5-on-5, the Dvorak line has basically become the second line.
And when you look at how much they're actually producing not only the offense, the chances themselves, but they're getting the results too, which is big. I think there's a huge contrast between Alex Newhook and Patrick Laine when you talk about effort level specifically. And we talked about the speed thing. Like you said, Patrick Laine often looks like the slowest player on the ice, which is absolutely true. Alex Newhook often looks like the fastest player on the ice. His brain works very, very quick. His pace is great. And he's just this little workhorse who's going to the danger zones all the time. He's cutting to the inside of the net as much as he can. I love Alex Newhook's game. It's not a mystery to me why Martin St. Louis trusts him and doesn't trust his line mate. It's obvious. It's blatantly obvious to me. Wouldn't it be incredible if Demidov comes in and gets trusted immediately by Martin St. Louis at 5-on-5 more so than Patrick Laine? Because there's absolutely potential for that. He's going to get his start tomorrow, Monday, against Chicago. That's what everybody's saying. Elliot Friedman corroborated that story on the broadcast. And so it's looking like that's going to be the case. He skated with the team in Toronto. So I'm absolutely I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen here. Is he going to get trusted immediately by MSL and get more ice time than Laine in his first ever hockey game? It's entirely possible, Jordan.
The real question is that when does he get the call to power play 1? And is that going to happen this season? I think it's probably too late. I think you probably just put him on power play 2 for the rest of the year. But there's certainly an argument to be made. And there's arguments to be made in general about St. Louis' roster decision making and who he's playing and who he's not. There's a lot of noise about Pezzetta and Xhekaj. Well, Pezzetta playing, Xhekaj now playing, Savard playing. Yeah. Whether you're Emil Heineman's banged up right now, but Josh Roy is technically still on the team. And obviously Demidov's going to come in. Quickly on Pezzetta, took the penalty. Terrible penalty.
Yeah.
You cannot be, when you are the 12th forward, you cannot be taking that penalty. Is that his last shift as a Montreal Canadien?
I mean, yeah. Now that Demidov is coming, barring some injury, that's me knocking on wood. Barring some injury, he's done, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because he gives the energy, he gives the effort. I like Michael Pezzetta, but he's just severely outclassed and not, you cannot trust him defensively, offensively, in sort of any fashion. So sorry, dude. More skill is coming, and we appreciate you. Maybe you'll get a shot elsewhere next year, but I do definitely think that's it.
He's played more than 9 minutes in a game twice this year.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Look, what I will say, and I thought the timing was kind of perfect, and I'm curious to know as to whether St. Louis recognizes this or not. Saturday night was Michael Pezzetta's 200th game in the NHL. And as I've brought up on the podcast before, just a fun little wrinkle I've kind of discovered this year is the NHLPA pension. Basically, you get scaled up a quarter season every 20 games. So Pezzetta now getting to 200. He was at 199. He could have been benched at any point in the last little bit. I wonder how much of it is St. Louis saying, like, look, he basically doesn't play any games in November or December. He's, again, kind of adrift in February, plays some games in March, and he's basically played the last 2 weeks. If you're just saying, like, thank you for being the 13th forward. And again, like the analytical part could be like, who cares? Like, put your best guys on the ice.
Yeah, we're about to make the playoffs.
So, but I do wonder
if that's what he's making the decision based on. I'll just say this: that I'm not thrilled with Martin St. Louis right now.
Yeah, so like part of me wonders how much of it is just St. Louis knows specifically how much this matters in the room, that there's a guy that you're getting to 200 game milestone, whether it's the pension stuff, whether it's just like it's 200 games. Also, like, yeah, he's been not a peep out of Michael Pezzetta all year. He's likely not coming back next season. I don't know. But again, at the same time, left brain, right brain, it's like, just put out your best team. Not that there's many better options, quite frankly. I mean, you could have just gone 11 forwards and just Xhekaj. That's probably what you should have done, because Savard's also becoming kind of a specialist. If he's playing 7 or 8 minutes at 5-on-5 and only four minutes on penalty kill.
You would not be able to convince me that Roy would not have done, I don't know, had a more complete game, let's say, than Michael Pezzetta had he played last night. He wouldn't have to be a superstar either. He would just have to sort of do his job in a bottom 6 role, and he would have outclassed Pezzetta. So I don't think there's validity to saying that you had to put him in as the 12th forward. Do we really want to dress 7 defensemen? No, you had another option for a 12th forward there. Ideally, Roy belongs in the top 9, ideally top 6, but you know, he's not getting there the way that he's played for the Habs so far. But I would have preferred to see him, I think. I don't know if they're saving him. I don't know if he'll be sent back down to Laval to go, play some playoffs with them. But I do really think that it's the Xhekaj Pezzetta. Like, if you don't have Xhekaj in, you at least need Pezzetta as the sort of protector. He's not a deterrent. I said it on the last episode. He's not a deterrent the way that Xhekaj is, but he's more of a deterrent than Roy, unquestionably. So I agree with you. I think 7 defensemen and just give the forwards who deserve to be there a little more ice time is great. But also, if Laine is only playing a little bit of time and he's supposed to be your second line guy, like, is the first line just going to get up to 30 minutes each? That's too much. That's too much minutes.
Yeah. Just quickly then on the Roy stuff. I think the reason he hasn't been sent down is because post trade deadline, there's a CBA rule where you're only allowed to have 4 call-ups. He was technically the second one after Owen Beck. So I think they just want to make sure, like, they don't send him down. Someone gets hurt, they have to bring him back up. I don't think that issue will happen anymore. There's 2 games left. Demidov is imminent. So, but I think that's been part of the reason why Roy has been just kind of sticking around with the Habs and not playing in Laval. Okay, I did want to shift quickly. We have a few minutes left here to update people on our season-long over-unders, which we did, I think, in the second and third episodes of the season. And in the past, the over-unders, we used to do them every episode. They got a little tiresome, I will be honest. I think last year we did something like 25 or 30. Brian, bless you, you actually tracked them last year. And a couple times they came down to the wire. I believe last game of the season, Slavkovsky picking up 2 points last year. Yeah. Hit the over on 3.5 players with 50 points. And then the one that I think decided it, who wins between me and you, was 4.5 players drafted in the top 10, 4.5 defensemen drafted in the top 10 of the 24 draft. And it's like they waited until it was statistically impossible for me to win that because I said over, and then like 5 straight defensemen get drafted. Yeah. So I think that was the ultimate deciding factor, that little piece there. This year, all we did was 3 for each. I had 3 for you, you had 3 for me. We both did the Habs point total over under, and then we kind of have a tiebreaker after that. So where do we stand? Brian, let's go to yours. I gave you 3. And I will say, like, credit to us for the most part on pretty much nailing some of these over under totals, except for one, I think, big omission. So Kirby Doc, I gave you Kirby Doc face off win percentage, 40.5%. You said over. And it's just under at 40.3%.
Oh, man.
So close. Next one, Jaden Struble, 58.5 games played for the Habs. You said under. You are correct. I think it's going to finish. I think he's at 54 right now. So probably getting to 56. I will say I'm salty about this one because we did this over under, and the very next day, they announced he was out to start the year.
Yeah.
And also your rationale for under was like he's being traded, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, which I was dead wrong on that. They traded Barron instead and brought in Carrier, which helped my case for this one because Carrier, you're not taking Carrier out of the lineup for Struble.
Yeah, and then the other one, this is the one that we were way off on, was Laine Hudson finishing in Calder voting 4.5th place, which doesn't make sense. Basically, top 4 or not outside, not in the top 4. You said yes, top 4. I don't think he's been outside of the top 3 all year, quite frankly.
And now he's number 1.
So you were 2 for 3, 2-1.
I'll take that. That's not bad.
We'll come back to you. I mean, the regular season point total was a joke. We both said over 76.5. So you went 3-1. We'll get to the tiebreaker in a moment. My 4 is also over on the point total. Easy peasy. Team save percentage, technically is still going, was a 904.5. And honestly, Brian, if we're just looking at Samuel Montembeault and Jakob Dobes, I still think it's under. It'd probably be around 902. But it would have been pretty darn close. Unfortunately, those 11 Caden Primo games at, is it 836, 839?
836.
That torpedoes it, I think, by a good 10 points. So I'm happy to call this one as under. They could have back-to-back 85 save shutouts. It will not make a difference. The other one, adjusted power play. Now, this one I have not put in the fully in the win column yet. It was, so basically the Canadiens plus minus on the power play. I believe they have 46 power play goals and 6 shorthanded goals against, so it's a plus 40. So I've said the over. It is over. Unless they concede 3 shorthanded goals in the next 2 games, this will likely hit the over. But very well done on the closeness.
I'll say this, they better not. They better not give up 3 shorthanded goals. I will be very upset.
Yeah. And then the last one, the one that's coming. So point is, I have 3-0. So I could theoretically go 4-0 and I think beat you there. However, very much like Columbus and Montreal, theoretically, you would have the tiebreaker here because the tiebreaker was closest to the pin basically on point total. I said 82, you said 84. You were closer on that with the Canadiens at 87 or 88 now. So you have the tiebreaker. However, the one that's coming down to the wire is points by the first line. So that's Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky. The over-under was set at 209.5. And if my math is correct right now, they are at 205 or 206. I believe they need 6 total points to go over. So that would put them at 204. Basically, in my head, it was 80 points from Suzuki, 70 from Caulfield, 60 from Slav. I think we've kind of re-thought about it in my mind to 90, 70, and 50. And I think you're looking at, is it 6 points off? Is that what needs to happen in the last 2 games?
So they're at 204 right now between the 3 of them. To average those 70, they need another 6 between the 3 of them. I think this might be a point night against Chicago, frankly, the way that Chicago has looked. God, Bedard looks so happy to be on that team, doesn't he? Jeez, brutal. Let's not sidebar into that. But yeah, so I mean, 1 point each over the next 2 games does it.
Yeah.
Which that would be fantastic. You did take the over.
I thought I took the under.
Oh, you took the under. Okay, so you're comfortable right now if they don't do that. But with a point night, this might be another over-under victory for your boy Brian.
It might be. It might, just like last year, come down to the end of the wire and see, if I swear to God, if it's another Slavkovsky goal that hits the over, like it's going to be hilarious 2 years in a row if that's what it is.
That's true.
So that's where we're at. I figured we'd update people. It's been 30 episodes basically since we last did it. So good on us. I think some pretty spot on over-unders. Struble is going to be 2 games off the over-under total. Kirby Doc is basically bang on. The adjusted power play is basically bang on. Same goes for the point total. Well done. Anything else, Brian, you wanted to get into before we wrap the episode?
No, just please clinch, guys. Please just clinch already. Like, this is...
Yeah.
I'm not worried. I don't want to say the word worried because I said no to your question at the beginning, but the more we've talked, the more worried I'm getting. Just clinch already. And I didn't want it to be like, oh, Columbus lost, so now the Canadiens are in. I wanted them to do it themselves. It's so much sweeter when you yourself put yourself in the playoffs, not be like, oh, they lost. Okay, we limped in. Great. Now try and limp through the top team in the East. Not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think hopefully Monday's a bit of a light coronation. Hopefully it's a little victory lap game against the Blackhawks. Hopefully the Blackhawks, do their thing. Also, like, again, I know they haven't clinched yet. I'm not here to jinx anybody, but if we could avoid the Canadiens playing game 1 on Easter Sunday afternoon, that would be fantastic. The NHL really did a really dumb thing by ending the season on a Thursday and having basically all the competitive teams and contenders play on that Thursday, to the point where basically the only I've kind of done the math. Only 3 series could start on Saturday, unless you want to give a team just 1 night off. I don't think they're going to give Washington, the first place team in the Eastern Conference, 1 night off, especially when they have to travel because they're in Pittsburgh on Thursday night.
Right.
So I think it's Dallas, Colorado Saturday, Winnipeg versus Wildcard 2, Vegas versus Wildcard 1. It's all Western teams that would be playing on Saturday, which could theoretically line up the Canadiens for Sunday at 12:30, which would suck. But I think we'll see. My brain started going there. I think Sportsnet's going to want the Habs and Leafs on opposite nights. So there's a possibility the Habs might play Monday night, but just trying to put that out to the universe that game 1 of Habs Capitals, not Sunday at 12:30, nor is it Sunday at 3:30, by the way. I will only accept Sunday at 7 p.m. or on any time on Monday.
I'm good with that.
We'll
see.
Sounds
good.
But the job is not done.
No.
Maybe those Capitals help us Sunday evening. If not, Habs Blackhawks Monday, like everyone thought, is the game of the year. Ivan Demidov's likely debut. Sorry, Ivan Demidov. Sorry, there it is. I'm working on it. Ivan Demidov's likely first game in the NHL, and hopefully it's a clincher.
And did you see what number he selected, Jordan, to play with the Montreal Canadiens?
No, what did he pick?
Number 93.
Oh.
So there was the Conn Smythe pressure of, if I win the Conn Smythe, give me $500,000. And now there's I'm going to pick the number that's the last time the Canadiens won the cup because that's my goal.
Yeah. Okay.
Have I told you I love this kid?
Yeah.
Go, Ivan, go.
I will say, unfortunately, the Conn Smythe bonus thing has kind of been demythicized.
Really? I didn't see that.
People basically, it was Chris Johnson from The Athletic, basically figured out that in order to maximize his bonus eligibility for his second and third year of his contract, he had to have like just dumb bonuses in year 1. Apparently, okay. Ryan Leonard has a similar type bonus in his contract that just kicked in with the Capitals. So, whatever. We can just mythologize it to the point where no, he said like, I want this, but
he's getting 20 goals, 30 assists in the playoffs. He's going to get the Conn Smythe. Why are we talking about years 2 and 3?
Okay. All right. Well, that feels like as good a time as any to wrap the episode. Thank you folks for listening to this post-game episode of the Habs. Unfortunate loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but sunnier days ahead of us. You can find us on social media at Habsland Pod on Blue Sky and TikTok. If you like what you heard, feel free to leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until Monday night, go Habs.